AmeriCamp, the ultimate summer camp podcast. Today, we're back talking about camp, as always. What else would we be doing? And we've got a little topic today. We're going to be talking about how to make friends at camp, because this is honestly one of the most important things about camp, is building relationships, making friends. In light of that, I have a special guest today, which just so happens to be a friend from camp. I am here today. Oh, sorry, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Juliette. I work for AmeriCamp. I went to a camp called YMCA Camp Frankie Day in Massachusetts, and someone who also went there is my friend Maya. Hi,
Maya. Hi, Juliette.
I'm so excited to have Maya on the podcast today so that we can talk about making friends at camp. And I think what we'll do is have Maya just introduce herself a bit, like how you got to go to camp, what your experience was. I mean, we don't have 50 hours, but a summary.
Okay, so quickly, I went to a camp fair and met everyone at the camp fair. So I met Juliette and a few others, and the camp director at the time, and I got hired, and that was pre-COVID. My first year that I was supposed to go to camp
2020
was 2020, the infamous 2020. So I was supposed to go in 2020 and then 2021, and lots of people didn't get to go.
Yeah.
But then obviously I managed to go in 2022.
And that's when our paths crossed again.
Yes.
In a really magical way.
Yes. We got picked up at the airport by Juliette and the other two unit directors at the time, so Kate and Joyce. And I just remember being in the airport and them screaming, "You're Maya Reeves!" Because it was I'm supposed to have gone, and
Maya.
No one else who had really been hired then went back that year because it was so far apart, and there was so little amount of returners from the international returners.
It was literally
It felt like I was infamous already. I was like, oh no, because you always have a bit of a thing to live up to then.
An expectation, almost.
An expectation of.
I don't think that was obviously we knew you were great. There wasn't necessarily an expectation. It was more just a realization of wow, we got over this hurdle of COVID, and we're here.
Yeah.
And we were just so excited to meet you, because obviously me and Joyce had met you in person.
Yeah.
We just were we just have a feeling about this girl, and then lo and behold, we were so right, because you ended up being one of the most iconic people that has ever graced the shores of Quackenquasset. Hello.
But when I first got there, I feel the first few days are crazy, because you're not only getting over jet lag, you feel you're living in another country, but you're not just living in another country, it's another world being at camp, because it's so secluded, but in the best way possible. So especially where we were.
Especially CFAD is truly in the middle of nowhere.
It's in the woods, that's it.
Yeah.
So we arrive, and you drive out of Boston Airport, and you just feel you keep going and going,
down
and then
Mass Pike.
But as soon as I arrived, it almost felt right, because it had been so long for me, especially of wanting to go. And this was sort of my third time lucky. If I don't get there this year, I'm gonna knock it on the head. It's obviously not meant to be.
I can't imagine if you hadn't been there.
I know.
I genuinely can't imagine you not being there.
I can't imagine my life without camp. I can't imagine what I would have done. So it's pretty crazy. So yeah, when I got there, we got put in staff cabins. So that really gave us a chance to make friends with everyone.
Make friends immediately, yeah.
Yeah, and it was very much we were split up with people who probably we wouldn't have made friends with otherwise.
Well, that is kind of just at camp, obviously, we're really we'll get into it, but there is such a diverse group of people. At CFAD in particular, we have quite a incredible group of American staff, and we also have a lot of people from the UK, but we also have people from all around the world. It's just such an incredible diverse group of people. I obviously started camp in 2018.
Yes.
Ancient history. And we also weirdly, because your year was a huge cohort of new internationals, because there weren't a lot of returners post-COVID. And weirdly, my cohort was a huge group of new internationals as well. I don't really know why there weren't that many returners that year, but that was the case. Yeah. And so you kind of just had this instant bond of we are all having this collective experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember I don't think it was right at the start. I think it was a few days in, because it was when like a couple people who were like arriving late were arriving, and we were like stood on senior basketball court, which is basically like when you're entering like the main part of camp. That's kind of the first thing you'll see.
Yeah, it's also a bit of an iconic spot, isn't
it is an iconic spot.
I don't even know how to describe it. Like if you looked at it, you'd be like, it's a basketball court,
but it's so much
it's
more than
so
that,
much more
because
than
it's you know, it's like training, it's color war, knockout.
That's where you find out your units.
Exactly. Whoa.
Sort of vibe.
That's where you that's where you find out your codes. Like that's insane. So we were having like a little bit of like, I don't know what you would describe it as, like a mixer on the like senior basketball court, just basically just like chilling, waiting for these like new people to arrive. And this was like the moment that I had a realization of like, oh my gosh, I haven't spoken to like most of these people, because I was very closed off the first few days. I specifically like remember like the people like arriving from the airport, and I was like, oh my God, me arriving from the airport feels like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I can't waste a single, like another second.
Yeah.
Like I have not spoken to half these people. I have not like got stuck in, and I had like a real like wake up call of like, it's gone so quickly, but also it's gone so like slow. I need to make the most of it. And that's when I kind of started being like, okay, like I just need to show love to literally everyone here, and like this is how I'm going to build these relationships. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. It's crazy, innit? Because I remember we had like a block party. I would call it, because we did it at the Red Court, the dance. And it was very much like, that's when like more of the American staff had arrived. Like I met the third co in my...
Your co...
Yeah,
triad.
You know what I mean, triad, that's the right word. It sort of all came together at that point. I feel like when the American staff arrive, like it really makes camp feel like camp. Yeah. Does that make sense?
They really bring it to life, because really they're teaching us about it. And I think that like senior basketball court mixer was also when the Americans arrived, and it was like, whoa, we are here. Like I'm never like, I know a lot of people talk about like the culture shock of America and like hearing the American accents, because I kind of grew up going to the US. Like I didn't necessarily feel that way, but what I did feel was like they had this specific energy, and like it definitely like brings it to life a little bit more. Suddenly we're singing songs in the kitchen without the dining hall, without the kids even being there. Suddenly we're giving out like respect candles, and the kids aren't even there yet. Like they do like adult camp, do you know what I mean, to really like immerse you in it. I think a lot of people don't like actually think about the fact that there's going to be like a huge group of Americans there. I think that that's like one of the things that is going to really help you to immerse yourself in camp, is like learning from them. If you really think about it, like all of our friends from the US, for example, went to camp like for years and years and years before like becoming counselors. It means so much to them. And I think that if you show like how much you are there to like make it a better place, how much you respect camp, like they are just gonna like really like love you and fall for you, and like
100%.
That's how you build those relationships. But,
I was saying to Juliette like maybe last week or a couple of weeks ago about how it took me a lot longer to form relationships with the American staff. I think it might partly be because of like me personally just feeling connected straight away to people who are from where I'm from. I think that just like naturally happens, doesn't it? Like,
and they're having the same experience as you. You're the shell shock of like being there for the first time.
Definitely. So I feel like you do probably connect quicker with people who are maybe geographically as well, like where you're from. So like I connected with Northerners straight away. But that's because I'm from Manchester, like that's who I am. Like it's very much ingrained in my personality. Like I always have a Manchester like jokey t-shirt with me at camp, and I always have a city top. Like they're always in my suitcase and they always come out. I connected with people from like the north straight away, but then as soon as I started connecting with everyone else, then for me that's when camp really became camp, because of how diverse it is. It wouldn't feel like camp without it being like that.
I also think one of my like biggest things that I learned specifically from my second year at camp, because first, second, third, like every year is completely different. Then I think what I like really learned was that you are going to form like, it's kind of the psychology of it. It's like when you go to uni and the person you sit next to in your first lecture, you end up sitting next to them for every lecture for the rest of the year. I think you have to like, even though that person could be like one of the most special friends that you have to break that cycle to also make friends with everyone else. And you're not always going to be friends with everyone, but it's a case of realizing that actually you'll make strong relationships throughout the summer. Like for 100%. Kate, for example, who was one of the other unit directors, who was like, obviously you worked closely with because you were her assistant. Like we didn't form like a friendship really until like the kids had left in my first year. Right. So like it was during like, because we like had obviously crossed paths a lot, we had planned stuff together. And then it was when we were like doing cleanup after the kids had left in 2018, after Purple Camp, which is like, you know, a whole other thing, that we like was kind of just like, by the way, like I've always really admired you from afar. And we were like, oh, like we've wasted this whole summer not being obsessed with each other because we both like admired each other from afar. And then I came back my second summer, I was like, no more admiring people from afar. I don't want to lose out on opportunities to be like close with people. I think that like that's something with like building friendships with leadership, for example. I always didn't want people to feel like they couldn't be my friend just because I was their like boss, essentially. Like don't miss out on those opportunities to, even if it's just like go, like we obviously, I've spoken about this on the podcast before, we have a concept at camp of beacon lights, the people that like guide you, hello. And if you feel that someone is like an inspiration to you, is at CFAD your beacon light, you should just tell them. Like sometimes there are like specific opportunities, like if you're making like a speech at the campfire, or you're writing like a warm and fuzzy, or there's like, sometimes we would do like love notes or whatever that would get sent around, like maybe use that as an opportunity to be like, by the way, like I really admire you, I want to get to know you better. Maybe if we have a day off together, like let's spend it together and see where it goes.
When you're an adult at camp, everyone's just the same age.
I know, because I went back to camp at 24 and I was like, am I going to be a grandma? But like, no, it's like literally fine.
I feel like it's really crazy, like the whole, so many concepts that exist at home don't really exist at camp. Like it doesn't really matter what you're doing at home, like whether you're at uni, whether you've got like a full-time job that you've like quit to come to camp, or whatever, like
you can have such different lives.
Like people come straight from like college and like fresh at 18, which is what I was going to do. It was very much like that doesn't really exist. So if that's something that's like worries you, like don't let that worry you, because it's definitely like one of them things that's like, all right, okay, yeah, cool, that's so cool that you do that. How are you finding camp? What did it
In the end, you've got this one thing that absolutely ties you together, which is that you want to be at camp and you love it. And like, you know, sometimes that's where I see people maybe struggle, is that they're not like throwing themselves into it and like really like embracing all the aspects of camp. You know, we went to a YMCA, and so it's a little bit smaller, and I just think that you find so much more that's special in like the everyday, like the things that you learn rather than like the things that you're doing. And if you like have appreciation for that and you like embrace all the things like sharing bathrooms and sharing a cabin and all of this stuff, like that's when you find other people that are like really like appreciating it, and you're like, we have this thing in common even though we're so different. I know. We love camp.
I know. It's very much like really shows you the phrase like life is what you make it.
100%.
Like camp is definitely what you make it.
Yes.
Like I think some people struggle with when they go to camp, that they're like, this isn't what I imagined. Like
it's never gonna be what you imagined. It's never gonna be what you imagined.
It's insane. Like when you get there, you're like, wow, like craziness.
Circle time, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about like all the craziness. Juliette ran Circle Time my first year, and then I went on to run it last year with the new internationals. There's always a couple of tears flying around. The year Juliette ran it, there was lots of tears flying around.
I feel like I can get it out of people. I'm like, what are your deepest, darkest secrets?
Definitely. I don't think I was quite as...
you weren't providing therapy, let's just say that.
No, I wasn't providing therapy.
But Circle Time is basically like something we do during staff week. It was actually Freddie that like came up with it. It's basically like an opportunity for like returning international staff to talk to new international staff about the concerns and anxieties that they have about camp, because I think sometimes we like are really like scared of being vulnerable, and if you don't do that at your camp, you should introduce it, because it's such a good way to break down barriers. And I remember Freddie describing it in my first year as like, you've got a wall up right now of like stresses and anxieties and like concerns, and you just need to like take one brick out at a time until the whole wall falls down. And that's how you like build relationships. You know what I mean?
100%. Because as well, like, other people will help you take your little bricks down.
Exactly.
Like returning internationals and other new internationals that you've like made friends with.
And someone coming up to you at the dining hall and being like, can I sit with you and like let's eat together is like another brick out of the wall, and like 100%.
And then as soon as the kids come, the wall's gone.
The wall's gone.
Like, genuinely, like,
and if your wall's still up, that's when you're gonna struggle.
Yeah. But it is like, I think most people think, oh, I find that so hard to do this, like to take the wall down. But I feel like real life and camp life is so different with making friends, in my personal opinion. Like, you would, well, I would never. Some people would, but I would never go up to someone in like the food court in Manchester and be like, oh, you sit by yourself, do you mind if I come and sit with you? Like,
it's different.
That is my idea of like living hell. Like, I would not want to do that. I don't want to disturb people's peace, like when they're sat eating by themselves. But at camp,
let's be honest, you're in the woods.
Yeah, you're in the woods. You haven't got your phone with you.
No,
like,
you're together.
You're together.
You're stuck with each other.
Yeah,
in a nice way.
Yeah, in the best way possible.
Yeah, I always think, you know, like how you were saying about 5 Mile, like it's so specific to our camp, but like putting it in the context of like other people's camps.
Yeah.
Like if you are like going to camp.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a point where like you like enter like a new world and you're like you have to leave like all the thoughts that you had about like, because I'm like quite introverted like naturally like in life. At camp it's extrovert city. Like I think like my number one thing is like I found it so much easier to make friends once the kids had arrived, because I was like out of my shell, because I feel quite comfortable working with kids. And the more you get stuck into like literally everything, the more like you just like are naturally like making friends. Like if you think about like, oh, I like randomly was like, oh, I'll help with that activity. And then like you think, oh, actually that's how I made that friend. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. And I think as well, like by getting stuck into things that you typically wouldn't, definitely makes you helps you make other friends. So like the friends you're gonna make are probably similar to the activities that you're gonna do. So like the natural friends that you're drawn to are probably the friends that you would naturally do activities with. Lifeguarding.
So naturally I shouldn't be friends with the lifeguards because I can't swim, but
essentially, but then you do other things on the waterfront, or like I helped with LARPing, which is so outside of my comfort zone.
I've spoken about LARPing on the podcast before. It's the best activity.
It's so much fun. Mine ended in chaos, and then the kids were like, "Come back and do it again," and I was like, "I don't have any more ideas."
I feel like, did we do it together?
I don't know.
I definitely joined in on some.
Counsellors. To do it. Like
there
was no one to do it, and I was supposed to be on my unit period because I was assistant my first year. Which is another crazy story. But I was assistant first year, so when you're an assistant at our camp, you have a unit period. I don't know if that's the same everywhere. And it basically means like you're there to like do things that need doing in the unit.
For your like unit director.
Yeah, for the unit director. And like sometimes it would just be a case of the unit needed tidying. So I'd just tidy it. You know, like little things that just make camp run a bit
There's so much that you wouldn't expect. Like like, you know, organising like the next session's cabins or like plaque teams or like whatever, the little administrative things that need to be done. Do you know what I mean? Like literally there's so much that needs to be done.
So during that we were stood around like sending all the kids off to their activities. And I was with Kate and I was about to say to her like, what do you want me to go and do? And then she was like, who's supposed to be doing LARPing? Anyway, so then me and Kate went and took LARPing, and Kate's a LARPer.
I wish I was there. She is,
Kate is a LARPer.
But she's got the most incredible imagination.
Yes, like the best imagination I've ever met.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing LARPing, and Kate had to go and do something. So I just took this whole LARPing class. I'd never LARPed before. Didn't really know what it was before I'd come to camp at all.
So it's basically like live action role play, but not like you see like LARPing online, it's like people with swords and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like the counselors will come up with some sort of situation.
Yeah.
So for example, like in my first summer, we did one where it was like, okay, the situation is the fish from the lake are protesting, and they like are coming out of the water and they want to like take over camp. And then the kids have to spend a whole hour acting that out. And like, what would you do in this situation, basically?
It's really good. It gets their imagination going, and it really gets them sort of like thinking about like things that are completely crazy. And
it's basically just an opportunity for us to go around camp and cause chaos, because you have to stay in character. So like if you go up to an activity and you see like your friend, like a kid sees their friend, they can't come out of character. Like you have to go up to that friend in character.
Yeah. And it was really nice this summer. I don't know if anyone's filled you in on this, but basically this summer the seniors loved it, which it's normally like a very much like freshman junior activity. Like the seniors like get involved, but this summer the seniors lived for LARPing.
I love that.
It was insane. Like nothing I've ever experienced before. They used to like come into the unit. I don't even know when they used to. I think they used to do it in their free time. They used to get people to do it with them like during Super Choice, which is like playtime. What I would describe it as.
I need that. That's so great.
And they just like would come into the unit, and all the freshmen were like, "What's going on? Like, what is going on?" These 7-year-olds are like just running around the unit, like playing tetherball, which is like a big volleyball attached to a string on a stick. Like, imagine, what's the tennis one called?
We genuinely need a dictionary of camp terms. This podcast should come with a glossary.
Yeah, we should write that.
Here's the glossary. LARP, beacon light, tetherball.
So anyway, so the freshmen are all doing it, which they break at least once a session, just for context.
Yeah.
So I'm forever fixing it. And the seniors run into the unit and are talking about being on a reunion, like a school reunion. So they're pretending they're like 60 years of age, and they're like running in, and all these kids then are like, what on earth is going on? But it's really nice when, on the topic of making friends, when the seniors come into the freshman unit, they become friends. It's insane. Like, another thing about age at camp, like, we've always said that if 2 units were to merge, we wouldn't cut juniors down the middle and split it into younger and older. The freshmen and the seniors would merge.
Yeah.
It's like 100% the way it would work, especially at CFAD.
Well, I don't know if they did it more recently, but when I was like a first year counsellor, they had like this program where seniors could spend like 1 session a day helping freshman activities, which kind of like gets them ready to be LITs.
Yeah, definitely. We did it this summer.
I do think that like also is like a really good point, is like obviously once you get split into your different units, because they're like our camp's pretty small.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really like glad about that, because I could like name you everyone that worked like a single summer. Do you know what I mean? But there are some camps that have like 400 staff, and I can't even imagine like what that is like. But like the more you have, like, because you'll get split up into like your units, or your, like, some of them call it like villages or whatever.
Okay.
I feel like the more you like you stay within that like village or unit or whatever, you're not like having the opportunity to meet all the people from the other units. Like the more crossover is like so nice.
But it also is nice to be
your
like,
unit as
so
well.
Close
oh,
with your
it's like a little family.
It's so nice. Like, you become so close with your co's. You become like so close with what I would call my next door neighbours.
Yes.
And then in my experience, session 4, which is our last session, is always like smaller.
Crying.
Yeah, lots of crying. But it's also a lot smaller, so in like the freshman unit, we don't get quite as many kids who come, campus who come. So we end up having
like little staff cabins.
Little staff cabins. And if they're not staff cabins, you end up having like 4 or 5 counsellors in a cabin. So you get even more co's, which is like so nice, because like it does feel like a little bit of pressure's been taken off.
Yeah, it's a really unique relationship as well, the co-relationship.
It is so unique, because you have to like, it's almost like a professional relationship.
Yeah.
But you will be best friends by the end of it. You have to be so close.
Yeah, and you have to be so respectful of one another's like needs and like time, and like really like work out like a schedule that works for you, and like balance within the cabin. And oh my gosh, I've had so many like different, because a lot of people will have the same co for the whole summer. I've like never had the same co for the whole summer.
No way.
Because the 2 summers that I was a counsellor, I had like probably like 8 different co's like all across the summer. Because I don't know, I was just like the one that was going to be like flexible and like go anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, flexible queen.
And I know
there's another thing though about being at camp, like your routine won't stay the same.
No,
like
every session's different.
Just let it be. Like just obviously do what's comfortable for you, but like be as free as you can, because it will give you so many opportunities. Like, you got to work with so many different amazing people.
I know, and you've got to be like, so, you know, I think you've got to find a balance between like going with the flow in the sense of like, okay, have I got like the energy to really embrace
Yeah.
the day and like make it the most it can possibly be for the kids?
Mm-hmm.
If not, what can I do to make sure that I have
Yeah,
got the energy?
definitely.
Like, do I need to take a nap during rest hour? In which case, I need to have a chat with my co about it, and like they need to be receptive to that. Like, that's what's going to cause like those issues and stuff. But yeah, no, I'm just like, now that we're talking about it, just like reflecting on like all the like my beacon lights and all my friends at camp, and like how special it is. And I think like another thing that I think I was never expecting going into my first summer, because also like I've been 3 summers. I had like each summer is a different moment in time where like it's a different set of people, so I have such different friends from each year. Is like the effort that goes into like sustaining those relationships afterwards, like it's a lot. And it's I think insane. That if you have like built because you can have friends at camp that you're like, okay, I'll see you next year, and you don't really like talk, and that's absolutely fine. But then the ones that you are like always chatting to, who like really just like embed themselves in your life, I feel like are the ones who, like, for me especially, it's the people who like feel the same way about camp that I do. And if you're not opening up about the way that you feel about camp, you're never going to find those people. Like at our camp we have tons of opportunities to do that, because it's Cry City. Like it's literally
well, especially
like,
us too though, Juliette. I don't feel like everyone feels this way. I feel like this is definitely a me and Juliette thing, just for like everyone else, for context.
If you like love CFAD, good for you. We just like
find it very easy to express our emotions, shall we say. Let's go with that one.
Let's just say I have made so many chip speeches. No,
I didn't finish my chip. So a chip speech is basically the idea of we throw chips into a fire so the light keeps burning. Essentially. I was going to quote a Colourwall song actually.
Why are we like this?
I didn't finish my chip speech session 4 this summer because I was crying so much, and I was like, right, thanks guys, sorry about that, we'll move on, let's get it going.
And you're my beacon light, so what can I say?
My beacon light. But yeah, so it's very much like, if you don't feel the same way me and Juliette feel,
that's okay,
because we are so emotional, and we're extra emotional.
Everyone shows the way that they love camp in different ways. You don't need, it doesn't need to be like an outpouring of emotion. What I'm saying basically is, if you've got someone that's special to you or that has made camp for you, just like tell them, like that's, they want to hear it, and they need, like, everyone needs to feel appreciated. I think enthusiasm for one another, like, it's gonna make it so much easier for someone to come out of their shell and give it their all at camp and like make a fool of themselves if you're behind them cheering them on.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like if like there's someone who's a little bit shy and they like do something that's like, they've kind of come out of their shell, they've taken a risk, they've done something silly, you need to be the person behind them that's like, snaps for that person, like they're gonna feel like the love, and that's like so special.
And then they'll do it again, because then
they'll keep doing it, and then they'll come back every year, and then they'll be a unit director, and then they'll buy camp, that's what we're gonna do.
That's our plan. But no, I also feel like it's very much like, what was I gonna say? It's definitely gone out of my brain. But like, the more, basically you get what you give. So like, we obviously know that it's not the best paid job ever. It's all about the feelings that you get from camp, in my opinion. Like,
and experiences.
The experiences, the feelings, and the connections that you build with people. Like, you don't get paid bad wages, but it's definitely not like the best wages you've ever been paid in your life.
No.
And I think we can all agree that. But the fact that people go back year after year after year, it just shows that it isn't about that.
No.
Obviously,
I got paid in love.
Paid in love. That's what we tell the kids. It's like, how much do you get paid? And we're like,
I actually
we get paid in smiles.
I actually get paid in free hugs.
So side hugs.
Side hugs.
So that's how we get paid. But no, it's very much like, I remember turning up, and the first time that you go, I feel like it's very much like, you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Because this is like nothing you experience. It's so overwhelming. We were sat around like one of the fire pits in the senior unit, and we were like singing all our camp songs and being dead silly. And I was like, what on earth is going on? I'm just gonna have to go for it.
Come by our.
Because we were like, here comes Maya riding that pony. That one. And I was just like, I'm just gonna have to do it. Like,
just do it.
We're going in. Like, if I'm not doing it, then what's the point in being here?
But you did it so much that we were like, maybe we should induct her onto the leadership team. just like within 2 weeks.
That's exactly what we thought. Okay, I'll do it. it. So I became the freshman assistant unit director in my first year. So I never really had like a normal year, you know, of just like counsellor.
No normal year.
No normal year.
Like
Hashtag no normal year. But yeah, so I did that. And then my second year, I became freshman unit director, which is a little bit crazy when I reflect on it. But
I'm just so proud of you.
Oh, thanks. It really did give me the opportunity to like make the craziest amount of friends, because I was almost on like what I would call like half leadership straight away. So it almost bridged my gap between
100%. Yeah.
leadership, and I think it made everyone feel a lot closer than in the past potentially.
Yeah.
Because there was new people on like assistant territory.
I do think at our camp, like maybe this is just coming from us and we're like, you know, I think it's slightly easier to make a big impact because there are less people, and the bigger the impact you're making, like the more relationships you're going to build. If you are at like a bigger camp where it's slightly harder to make an impact, you can make an impact in your area. Like let's say you were an activity specialist in like volleyball or whatever, and you spent every day doing it. If you like can find a way to like make an impact just in that like place, that's
100%.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
We kind of have to wrap up soon, but I wanted to end by asking what you would say to someone who is going to camp this year or next year, from someone who's obviously a veteran of camp. What would you say to them?
If you're thinking about it, just do it. Like literally, what's the worst that can happen? Like that's what my mum and dad were like to me. They were like, if you hate it, just come home. Like, and I feel like you very much.
But you won't,
like,
because
you won't. You won't. Just like FYI,
like,
you can. You'll want to go back and you'll cry on the last day.
I love that we spoke about being trapped in the woods and you can't escape. That's not the case.
You're not actually trapped.
You're not actually trapped. It's just
like metaphorically.
Yeah, you just need a car.
Yeah, and an American to drive it. But no, just do it. And if you go in and like you've already made the decision, like you've probably made the best decision you've ever made in your life. If like coming from it was the best decision I've ever made.
Me too.
And it's also like just give your all and you will get everything out of it. I think that's my biggest piece of information.
I think that's what you do.
Embrace the magic.
Oh, I love you. Yeah, I think that obviously I work in the AC office, so I'm talking to people that are going to camp all the time. And what I always say is exactly what we've said, is that it's what you make of it. I could very well have gone for one summer, been a decent counsellor, got what I needed to get out of it and left. But instead I was like, this matters to me. These children mean so much to me. They live these 9 months for 3, so make the most of it. And
they grow so
you
much,
can do that.
crazy.
I know, and you can do that with so many little things, just making a small impact on several people. It's so special. But yeah. Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much for coming, Maya.
Thank you for having me.
I could honestly speak to you about camp for 10 years, but we'll have to do that offline.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what we do anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our only topic of conversation.
And you're my beacon light.
And you're my beacon light. And go and find all your beacon lights, guys.
Bye.